So, on our way into Zimbabwe, our group actually got split up. Some of us are coming from different parts of the country. Some from Alabama, some from DC, some from Indiana, some from Chicago. And I was fortunate enough to meet a young man from Colorado actually, and we met up in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, on our way to Zimbabwe. To our surprise, we did not have our group leader, we did not have anybody to accompany us to Harare. So we kind of bit the bullet, we got on that flight, just two of us, and we embarked on our 4-hour journey to Harare from Ethiopia. Once we were in Mutara, we were able to enter Africa University. We were able to meet our friends and these people that we were going to be staying with for about 10 days. And they really became really good friends. At the very end, they had a bonfire, like a farewell bonfire for us, and it was one of the best times that we had in country. But something that I realized about Africa University, and this is, I've had this experience in different contexts across Africa, is that when you are in worship, when you are truly in that state where you are just worshiping God, it feels like the veil between this world and that other world, the spiritual world, is very thin. You feel almost a heavy presence of that spirit, of something that's moving, that's just kind of wants you you become overwhelmed almost. And we got a chance to experience that when we were singing, and we got invited to join the Praise the Lord choir, which it's been there for generations, and so many people have come and gone and have participated in this Praise the Lord choir. And I remember just being there and singing, and just like it goes, just feel it, just I don't know, like I remember seeing like a circle of light almost, like I really did, like sat down and just started bursting in tears. I just didn't know what I was feeling, like it's so otherworldly almost, but you feel that presence, and like I said, that veil is very thin. Aside from the amazing wonders of Zimbabwe, we also got to experience a couple of days, a couple of nights in Zambia. And thanks to some professional networks and whatnot, we actually got connected to a hostel because we ended up spending an unexpected night in Zambia. We were kind of stuck in Lusaka. In Congo though, Congo was quite the experience. As some of you know, I spent 6 months in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is one of the least developed countries in the world, part of the bottom billion, and I thought that being in that context would have prepared me for what I saw in Congo, but that wasn't really the case. And that's because a lot of people in Congo felt that they had been forgotten. And you kind of see it. In Congo, in Sierra Leone, in Zambia, and in Malawi, where I was after this trip, you see the presence of these NGOs, of the white land cruisers and whatnot, but you didn't really see that in Congo. It was very rural. It was very forgotten, truly. And it brings me to the point that we have become complacent. We have become the Samaritan, the priest on his way to church that ignores the Samaritan, or that ignores the person injured. And we can't be that. We have to remember that there's still those other people that have so much less than we do. And so I encourage you again to kind of think global but act local. How many of you knew that Champaign-Urbana has one of the biggest populations of Congolese refugees? Right? We have these people that are in our communities, and so we need to remember that there's still people that we can lend a hand to. And so, in order for you to really highlight the good things, you might need to go through some bad things. I'll be completely honest with you. Congo was one of the lowest points in my faith. I've never experienced such a thing before. Because I kept thinking, why are these people spending so many of their resources to build these churches, to build the office for the pastor and whatnot, when they can be using those resources for a school, for a clinic, for a hospital, something that will be more almost beneficial to their community. They're just building a building to, worship God. They can be using that building for a school or for a clinic or something, to give these resources that are so desperately needed. And I will never remember this one worship service we went to in Kamina, which was about 12, or not 2 hours, many hours north of Lubumbashi. And the sermon, it was in French, I speak French, and the sermon was just, it was like so spot on. It was almost like God actually heard me like kind of complaining, and he brought this pastor dude, and he just went bam, 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 here's why, here's why, here's why. And I hate it. It's one of those God things, I feel. Have you guys experienced that? When like the sermon just kind of slaps you? Just like, wake up, no, this is why you do this. But what am I saying? So, I was asking myself, what are we doing? Like, are we really just in this country kind of hearing these people, you know, how desperate their lives are, and I was just kept criticizing. I was very critical of everything. But one thing that the pastor said is that you build a church for your God. You do not forsake your God. No matter the low points in life, no matter what happens, you do not forsake your God. You build a church and you worship your God. And but I put it to God, I put it in God's hands, and I said, God, whatever happens, you know, just you worship your God, you just put it in God's hands. And this experience in Malawi, shaped my career, is going to shape my career. On that note, when I was in Malawi, I met this artisan. He was a woodworker, and he was able to carve this. You might not see it very well, but it says, Ubuntu Antu Afuko, which means the beloved community, the holy community. And it's just, the communion is always very special to me because it just reminds us that we're all connected through communion, through this sacrament, right? But again, it's just a reminder that we're not that far from our friends in Africa, from our friends in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, and in Congo. And that through communion, through the table, where everyone is welcome, where we have space for everyone at the table, that we are part of that beloved community, no matter how far we are. And I think that's all we got. Yeah. Thank you so much for supporting this trip, and I really appreciate it.
And my story is not a huge, like, oh my God, the pinnacle of the African experience, but it's the pinnacle of my African experience. So in Congo, when we first arrived, we went to a United Methodist Center to pick out fabrics and designs and get clothing made for us. What was supposed to take 30 minutes took 4 to 5 hours for whatever reason. All we had to do was take the fabric, choose a style, get measured, and move along. But in Africa, you quickly learn that whatever you know about time is not real. Like, 30 minutes over there is 2 to 4 hours. And if someone says they'll be there in 10 minutes, they'll probably be there in an hour. But if they say they'll be there, they will definitely be there. And so while we were at the United Methodist Center, some of our friends that were going to go on the bike journey with us that were Congolese, that we met at Africa University, they began showing up. And it was just crazy because the last we saw and heard of them was at Africa University 2 weeks ago. We met them, we asked, hey, do you want to go biking with us in Congo? And they were like, sure. And that was it. And then they all started showing up and we were like, wow, okay, you actually came, cool. And it had taken, again, 4 to 5 hours to get measured and choose styles and decide what we wanted to bring back home. And people were starting to get hungry, and so our group leader, Glenn, told some of our African friends, Edward specifically, he told Edward to take some of the people that had already gotten measured and chosen their styles, to take them to eat, and then the rest of us will meet them there. And Edward was like, but Glenn, but Pastor Glenn, because they always refer to him as Pastor Glenn. He was like, but Pastor Glenn, that is not what this is about. Like, we are a team, and we're not, how could we go eat and have the rest of the team not eat when everyone is hungry? And they refused. Like, they did not take half of the team to eat while the other half of the team stood and waited for their measurements and garments and all of that. They refused. And in that moment, I realized that on this trip, they as in our African friends, had a lot more to teach us about humanity than we could ever teach them or even learn here. I think that having gone there, we got more out of it than we gave them. in any respect. We honestly didn't give them much, and that's something that I struggled with throughout the trip too. I always thought like, okay, we brought donations, we're listening to their stories, we're being friends and allies, but what are we doing? Like, we see them building churches, and when we say we saw them building churches, I want you all to know that there were 7-year-old children helping build this church, and no one was getting paid. We saw 7-year-olds to 60-year-olds just building a church because they wanted it. They genuinely wanted a place to call home and to go and worship. And I just felt like we weren't doing enough. I was like, they need schools, they need hospitals, they need all these things that we can do for them. But throughout the trip, I learned that we are not the ones to do these things for them. They have the capabilities to do it themselves. They have the attitude, they have the strength, they have the perseverance, they just don't have the resources. That's where we would come in as partners, and we would help them with resources and help them learn how to use such resources and how to maintain the things that we can provide for them. But it's not our job to go out there and fix their problems and to build them a hospital and then leave, because then they're left with a building that they have no idea how to use or operate or maintain. And that's not the way over there. Everything is a team. So when we went, our African friends quickly became a part of our team. And this was very evident when we were doing the bike ride in Congo. Sometimes we would get tired and we'd go into the Land Rover because it's hard to bike out there. And so the Land Rover was kind of full. It was the last day, and our friends Tosi and Claudia were just hanging off the sides of the car, like literally just holding on and like on the like rail thingy that's on the side. I don't know car parts that well. And we hit this bump in the road where the car, like the truck almost flipped over completely, and our friend Tosi like fell off of the side of the truck. I think we ran over his foot. Like, it was one of the scariest moments of my life. And I had just known Tosi for about 3 weeks, and my heart was beating so fast. I was on the verge of tears. Everyone in the car was so terrified and so worried for Tosi. Like, we pretty much cried when we made him get back in the car. He wanted to continue to like hold on to the side, and you're like, no, get in the car. Like, absolutely not. And I was as worried about Tosi as I would have been about Kenny or Ava if that had happened to them. And I've known them for longer than I've known Tosi. But because he was such an integral part of our team and he had done so much for us and we learned a lot from him, it hurt the same that it did for Ava and Kenny. And that's when I realized that time is not a real concept. It doesn't matter how long someone has been on your team. Once they become a part of your team, it's the same love for anyone that was already on the team. And that is the pinnacle of my African experience. And I cannot thank you guys enough for allowing me to go.
So the title of this series is Tell Me a Story. And when I think back about this, even from the beginning of the trip, I had an issue with this because I thought, what stories do I tell from this trip? Because it's very complicated for me. I've got a lot of feelings and thoughts on all of this. I'm not sure which stories to share. And the narrative I have from this summer is all over the place, up and down. There's beautiful moments, there's frustrating moments, and there were moments full of joy, and then there were other moments where I felt kind of broken or helpless. And it's easy to come back, and when people say, "How was Africa?" I'll just say, "Fine," or "It was good, it was exciting, it was a lot of fun," or because I think I'm hilarious, I'll say, "It was dusty." Africa was dusty. But that kind of cheapens the experience, and it takes time to unpack things and to talk about it. You're not just going to get fine or exciting. If you really want to talk about it, we got to talk. So instead of trying to tell one story that I think captures everything, I've got lots of short, quick ones, I promise. They're vignette style, so just follow me here. Some of the fun ones are when we went to Victoria Falls and there were some pictures. This is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. It was so beautiful, and we're standing over looking at this waterfall, and the mist is splashing, like coming back up and splashing us, and we're soaked and we're shivering, and the sun was setting and it got cold. But I wouldn't trade it for anything because we were all in it together, and that was a lot of fun. We also remember playing soccer. I was playing soccer very poorly. Everyone else was playing it very well. And, playing sports with people that don't speak your language. That's part of what I got from this trip. But there were some different, moments there in Congo that have stuck with me. So while we've got a lot of funny stories here, and really like an endless amount of funny stories, there's a lot of jokes to be had. There are other times where the weight of some of the situations we were in were difficult to comprehend and really weighed on me. And you realize that like these are people. One of them was at this children's home. Someone who was close to my age, coming to our door late at night and asking for food because he hadn't had anything to eat that day. I often felt frustration or anger in Congo that I'm not able just to walk down to the store. That if I leave our gated area, everyone's going to be looking at me, and they're going to notice that I'm not from there, obviously. And that frustrates me because that it's not their fault that they're in this position where it's hard to get money. And that brings me to my next point. I felt anger often at the way mission work or foreign aid just often misses the mark or misses the point in making connections and building things up. But I will say, even with all these things that like weighed heavy on me during my time there, all these wide-scale world problems, they would just seem to vanish in certain moments, and you'd forget about them. We would wake up 5:30 in the morning when the sun first starts to come over the horizon, and we'd pray every morning, in Swahili too. And those were just some of those beautiful moments. Or another moment that we had together was when we met up with about 40 kids and hiked up to the top of this mountain as the sun was setting. So we get to the top of the mountain and it's dark, and the kids don't know how to get down. We don't know how to get down. We made it. It took a while. So I've got one final story, and Dan had mentioned something about the Illini game last night, which was pretty disheartening. But last night I went to the Illini football game, and it reminded me of this moment that I had in Camino when we all got together to watch Congo play in the African Cup of Nations. And if you don't know anything about soccer in Africa, just know that it's second to church. It's a big deal. They take it very serious, and I've never seen people watch games, watch the replays of games, watch the commentaries on games, watch the replays again until the next game starts. It's crazy. We watch soccer all the time. So the night that Congo played this game, they were losing the whole game. And then final 30 seconds of the match, they scored a goal, and then in extra time they won the game. And we were watching this game in a tiny room crammed with over 30 people. I've got a picture I can show you if you don't believe me. We were watching this game on a rabbit ear television. And they win the game in extra time. And I often joked with our host, Laundry, that I said, you're just taking this prayer time that we do every day to pray for Congo to win this match. And he said, no, I don't think that God cares that much about football. But when they won that game, I couldn't describe it as anything other than a spiritual moment. That was a spiritual moment. The release and the joy, because I don't remember what happened during that day other than Congo winning that match. That was one of the most joyous moments of the trip, and I definitely felt God moving there, that He would give us that moment. Thank you all.